We'll go ahead and get started for our quarterly department head meeting. So this is Monday, April 22nd, 2024, 8:30 a.m. I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get started with Mr. Homicki with the Tax Assessor's Office. Tony. Before we get started, just as a reminder, I'm kind of running an experiment, so I appreciate everyone's forbearance. And so except for the 700-page public, 20-page Public Works presentation, the purpose of today was to try the following, which is one, have a much shorter department report that just focuses on a few key points. The second, though, is to try to make it a little bit of a discussion. We're interested in kind of your top five, either top five things you're working on, top five accomplishments and things that have gone well. We're interested in your perspectives on what's going on in other departments in other towns, right? So that's kind of an industry trends notion that might be relevant or interesting either for the Board of Selectmen or for you. I'm interested in your top five wish list. If I could change something, what would that be? Your top five list of problems. Here are some things that we're working on that we really either could get your help with to unblock or could you wish we could get resolved. So try to make it a dialogue. Let us know what you think, and let's just try that today. So I'll hand it to you, Tony. Thanks for coming.
Good Monday morning. It's a pleasure to be here. My top 25 list was to complete the 5-year reval cycle. We did complete that, meeting all the state standards. All the statistics have been in place. Approval was given by the state of Connecticut. It was all absorbing, time consuming, with compliment given to our members of our Board of Appeals, and I thank you again for giving me a couple alternates to help, because it was a busy month for Chris Peters, Rick Dolcetti, Glenn Rich, Robert Luth, and Dan Dolcetti. The hearings went very well, and the reevaluation has come to a close. I want to focus on tax relief for the seniors. We do take the tax relief for about 100 homeowners now. It has to be filed annually. The income level is $62,400 for married couple and $58,400. Our website has a lot of detail about this program, and compliment to Joe Pankowski. We did a TV 79 with Jim, and I think that went over very, very well for the tax relief program. General observations within the assessment world, the legislature does propose annually a variety of different changes to the property tax issues. I did submit some testimony that's available. But no, hopefully no news is good news. The property tax in Connecticut and Darien is quite healthy.
Can you expand on that point? You say here several proposals at the state legislature that would weaken the ability to properly assess commercial property. What are they proposing that's
There is a penalty for those of non-compliance, out-of-state property owners that might own commercial property, in concert with limited income and expense data. We follow the income and expense for commercial properties, try to follow the contract rent and the market rents, and what the proposed legislature would have weakened that aspect. Meaning if I use the cost approach, commercial properties would easily be 15 to 20% higher than what the exchange value would be. It's a little technical, but we do submit testimony and try to adhere to what the statutes are.
Is there any chance any of that's passing this session? Or
unlikely is what I'm told. Okay. So, lucky to say. So. And I just wrap up with a compliment to Darien Commons. Hopefully the occupancy at the Federal Realty will be complete. The Heights. I do miss the Sugar Bowl and Darien Donut, but I've replaced that with Mama Carmella's and Cafe Nero.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Quick question, can you tell me how you came up with the income levels for the tax relief?
That's a state mandate.
Okay.
And then we have, the Board of Finance has an option to visit that every year during the month of November and December, which we offer that. It's about a $20,000 income ratio. It's visited. It's a formula-based sliding scale. But yeah, it starts with the state of Connecticut.
I don't recall that we've ever changed that for the Board of Finance, have we? All right.
It's been a couple of years, John. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to open that up in November.
Okay. Anything on your wish list?
I'm a spoiled assessor, I guess. I have a good software, we have good technology, and I have a good team. So right now, I can't think of anything.
I have one question on the car tax. Any chance any of that will happen this year? Any change?
There's been a 3-year study on the property tax with a team across the board, from finance directors to legislative leaders. The proposal is initiated based on 3 million vehicles being valued based on the VIN number, using the NADA book value. Now, NADA was bought out, and the pricing guides have changed dramatically. So that is work in progress presently. At the worst case scenario, I hope we have at least a cap on the motor vehicle tax statewide. The best case scenario would be it to be modified significantly to affect the area, and I think it'll have a nominal impact.
Other questions for Tony? Tony, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next up, emergency medical service. Does it? He's not here.
No, he's Joe.
Joe, you ready, Joe? There you are. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is the springtime and our priority shifts to recruitment. Our student members have been to the middle school. That is our chance to explain posts to our 8th graders and get them excited to apply. We're never short applications in our student member corps, which is great. We love the enthusiasm. But it's also time for us to recruit adult advisors and adult volunteers, so we're out there actively trying to get people to come, join post, work with the amazing kids, and serve the town. And I'll answer any other questions you have.
For your adult advisors, how many of those do you have, and kind of what's your current need for that?
We currently have 46 active adult advisors, and they cover everything from staffing the ambulance when the students are in school, to working with the students directly in different jobs around the organization. And I'd like to say that I had an ideal number, but to me, the more the better.
More than 46?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then on your mental health first-class aid, I'm just kind of curious, what's the attendance for something like that? Is that pretty popular?
I'll defer that to Ally.
All right, Ally,
We host it, she runs it, but I
Okay,
know
all right,
that
we'll
it's
talk
packed
about
every time. She does a
Okay.
great job.
Just the two interesting things I thought, which I guess I hadn't heard we'd done this, which was having some of the members put on the witness stand to defend documentation while cross-examined by U.S. attorneys. Is that kind of a real-life scenario where they have to defend?
It was. We put on a sort of a dramatic scenario involving an elderly couple who there was a fall, and the wife wanted to refuse care, and she did, and subsequently passed away, and then there was a mock lawsuit. But what it did was it allowed the students to go actually to the courthouse, a little pressure scenario, and they had to dress as they would if they went to court. And the U.S. attorneys who volunteered were fantastic. They had all of our policies in advance, all the protocols, so they were able to grill them on sort of how well they wrote their documentation on the case. It was really eye-opening for them to see that is as important a role documenting what you did than actually what you did.
The other thing I thought was very interesting is this pulse point application and some kind of signaling for CPR-trained individuals in the vicinity of an event. How does that work?
Yes, I look forward to talking about that more. So this is a app that goes onto your Apple or Android device, and it connects with the dispatch software. So once it's identified that somebody potentially might need CPR in a public location, it basically pings out everybody who is within a set distance to that location to say that there might be somebody next door or somebody down the street who needs CPR, and if you're available to go. So, I had seen it in many other communities, and I actually was at the Fort Lauderdale Airport a couple of years ago, and I had downloaded the app just to try it out. I completely forgot I had it. And I'm sitting in the terminal, and the thing starts beeping in a tone I'd never heard before. And I look at it, and it says CPR needed, Terminal 4, Gate 30.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm in gate 26th. And I immediately ran down there, and it wasn't a cardiac arrest, it was somebody who fainted, but I think the system worked, and ever since then I've been thinking that might be worth a look at here in town.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Absolutely.
That's really amazing. Well, Joe, thank you for all you do. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Joe, to follow up on that, is there any liability if you don't respond?
No, it's solely a Good Samaritan-based effort, so it's just to notify you of the potential. There is no requirement. You do, when you download the app, it does have you attest that you've been trained in CPR, that you would be willing if the thing goes off, but there's no requirement.
Okay. And then going back to your adults, is there an expectation for how long somebody would volunteer?
So when you come in as an adult advisor, if you're an emergency medical technician already, great. If not, then you have to take the course, and the course is taken along with our sophomores, so it's a great opportunity to get to know the kids. And that runs from September until March. And then, we'd like to see 30 hours a month, donated per post, either on the ambulance or, like I said, working in the office advising. But
So 30 hours a month is good?
Yes.
Okay.
Terrific. Other questions?
I mean, just a comment, and that's a great program to go to White Plains. I mean, when they say U.S. attorneys, those are United States attorneys, and that's part of the Southern District of New York. So in essence, they're being grilled by among the best
Toughest,
prosecutors
right.
in the country. So
Yes.
great job to have them do that.
Fantastic.
scared them a lot.
Sorry.
I was scared watching.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I don't see Mark here for emergency management,
And no Jen.
and no Jen. Okay. All right, so we will pass on emergency management. Jen Charneski is out today.
Jen
Mr.
did say if you have any questions on a report to email her.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you. Bobby. Fire Marshal.
Morning, all.
Morning.
Well, happy to report, first off, that our revenue is well above original projections. Nothing on our part, it was because the delay in the construction projects that started, the Heights Crossing and Corbin projects were both anticipated to, we were anticipating funding in fiscal '23, so our projections are over this year's. We have officially launched our portion of permitting for OpenGov software. So all of the permits required through our office, fuel tank removals, fire alarm registrations, sprinkler system renovations, new systems, commercial kitchen hood systems, hoods, and other permits that we have through our office are all online now through the OpenGov platform. So when the
Oh,
customer
that's
logs in.
tremendous.
Yep.
That's great. How long is it working well, smoothly?
We've got some glitches that we've got to work through with them, which, we knew would happen, but it's pretty seamless. It works,
So vast improvement over where you were.
yeah, and
That's
it works, in concurrence with the rest of the platform that we've been using for building permitting. Construction is in full swing throughout the town. And like our biggest time suck, which impacts our overall inspections, regular routine inspections, is the construction. The volume of inspections for these projects is way over what we could have ever anticipated. Mostly in part because we've never seen this much work, commercial work going on at one given time in town
Right.
in my career, so. I'll be happy to take any questions anybody may have.
So how is that going? I mean, just in terms of your staffing level, your ability to deliver on these inspections, can you comment further on that? And maybe this is also...
So the inspections for the construction projects, I'm pretty proud of the fact of how we cover and are able to take care of the contracting world. Most stuff we are able to do within the business week to get them an inspection that's needed. Sometimes it's a quick look, sometimes, it's a couple hours of work. But we try to shuffle stuff around and so that we're not holding up a project on our end. I hear from contractors dealing with other municipalities that they wait 2, 3, 4 weeks to get an inspection. It just has a full negative impact on where, what they're trying to get done.
So not only that, but not only do you have this additional workload, but you're improving on completing these on schedule, right? Or
So we've made a great improvement on our routine required, annual, biannual, triannual inspections by catching up with the additional help that we have hired.
Okay. Anything on your wish list?
More time?
Granted. Okay. And then just one other thing, you've got in-service training here, which said that certified staff continue to take advantage of training opportunities. Has the state mandated any changes or augmentation of any kind of training requirements?
So it has not changed. We are required to do 90 hours of training over a 3-year period.
Okay.
So it hasn't trended. Some of the stuff is done through virtual training online classes that they offer, and that occurred when the pandemic happened. And then they've gone back to in-person stuff as well.
Okay, that's good. Terrific. Questions for Bobby?
Just a question on blight. At what point do you condemn a property or take away their, ability to continue to living? And are there cases that's happened? And is that?
No, we have not taken away anybody's property. The Blight Review Board is in the process of assessing fines on a few properties.
So they'll just keep accumulating fines, but
And then,
can continue
right,
to reside in there
if the
even though it could
property
be uninhabitable?
is sold, which occurred in one of the blighted properties, the town then recoups its fines through the sale.
But there's never a point that we take away the permit of them to be able to live in it or condemn the property?
I honestly am not 100% sure on that because I don't know if once we exceed the value of the property in fines.
I think she's
I mean,
talking
it's
more
for
about the
safety issue.
conditions.
It's a safety issue.
I'm sorry.
Is there a
So
point that you
if
can say
it's-
this house is no longer safe for a resident to live
So
in?
if it is not safe, when it be blight and hoarding, the hoarding is where it becomes a very dangerous situation.
Okay.
So in our hoarding cases, we deal very carefully with the residents and try to ensure that they're always in a safe,
Okay.
to make it as safe as possible, and then work with them to continue to clean it up.
The statute doesn't permit the blight people to actually go onto
Go
the property.
inside
It's
of the
all
property,
of
okay.
what they can observe from either the street or if there's a neighbor. That's why sometimes you get some shots of the back of the house because a neighbor might permit, someone onto the property to take photographs, but they don't have the authority to actually enter.
Okay. So you don't know if a roof is ready to cave in, or, I'm just worried about the safety of
So,
those residents
yeah,
still living in
some
the
of it
property.
is visibly seen street side, from a street from behind. You can sometimes catch pictures of stuff that is, if things are in really bad shape.
Okay.
Bobby, if the roof were about to cave in, is that not a building?
That becomes a
So you-
building.
You would bring the building department in
bring the
to then
building
condemn the
department
house?
in.
Okay, thank you.
Bobby, staying on blight, the case that was, the fines were recouped, how long was that in the queue? How long was blight looking at that? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was probably 2 years. Mike, do you remember?
It was before I came on to the board, so it would be a little bit over 2 years. I actually may have, just continue with what you're doing. I may have it in my blight review report from last meeting.
Okay. Other questions for Bobby?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alicia, are you ready or? Sure. Okay.
If you'll have me.
Absolutely.
I did attend the mental health first aid training, I think about a year ago, and there's tremendous value to that. And I think that Paula and Ally do a great job of training, for lack of a better term. It was very valuable to me. My energy at this point is developing the summer camp program for the town of Darien. We opened registration on February 12th, I believe it was, and within 5 minutes, we were full in every section, every session, and we have a tremendous wait list. So if I'm asked the question that John asked before of what can we grant, more space. We're challenged this year because of the 3 schools that are being taken offline. So we're operating all grade level programs out of Tokenique School, which will not be without its challenges, but I'm confident that the leadership that I have in place will be able to manage the challenges that operating all 3 programs will present.
What other physical locations have you been able to secure, or have you had to just double up at certain
We have
places?
So the YMCA is using Middlesex Middle School again this summer. Last year we were at Hinley, and we used St. John's Church for the youngest program because they kind of share campuses. But Hinley, Holmes, and Royal are all being taken offline as options in June because of the renovation projects that they have going on. And I anticipate that this will be our situation for next summer as well.
Correct. Unfortunately.
I meet on a monthly basis with peer professionals throughout the state. It's part of the CRPA, Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association. It's called the Camp Sections Group. We talk about the challenges, the successes. We are all faced with the challenges of staffing, how to encourage young people to apply for a job without their parent involvement. That is a big challenge. I give parents a one-off, and after that, I let them know that I want to hear from their kids if they really want the job or want to apply for the job. We have a CIT program, counselor and training program. I'm interviewing for that right now. So there's great opportunity for employment, for training. That's it.
Perfect. Okay. Questions, please?
Is your enrollment the same as last year?
Yes.
It is?
Yep.
And the same as the previous year? So are you?
So if I could put a camp by itself in a school, or even just 2 camps, I can work with the Board of Ed and access more space.
Okay.
But at this point, we're maxed out on the space that we can use at Tokenique.
Okay.
And you need a school facility, the bathrooms, the inside
Yes.
space? Okay.
Yes. And I feel lucky that we're not at Middlesex because at least we have playground options.
Right.
What about Ox Ridge? Are you using that at all? or-
The Board of Ed is using it for all of their summer programs.
school.
Got it, okay. Not an easy problem.
Nope.
Okay. Other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, back up to the top. David, Health Department.
Well, good morning, all. This will be my final address to the Board of Selectmen.
Don't smile too much.
After 15 years, that's my highlight.
Well, that's
Thank you
quite
for
the
all you've
highlight.
done, too. Yes.
We
But,
really
I want to
appreciate
thank
it.
everybody, seriously, thank everybody for the opportunity to have been here for the past 15 years. It's been a tremendous experience for me. Community health needs assessment was a project that was near and dear to me that I really wanted to have completed by the time I was retiring. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen due to circumstances beyond our control, illnesses within the firm, and delays. We have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow where we will get an update on the status for that project. The good news on that is that we do have grant money that will be available for the next 2 years. I don't think it'd take that long to do the project, but that money is allocated to complete the health needs assessment, so we'll have the funds to do it.
I'm sorry, do they have a timeline for that? Is it indefinitely delayed?
Our contract was supposed to have it done, draft form, in January.
Okay.
So and I was hoping to be able to provide you with the draft of that report at this meeting so that we could present it to the town in May. that was a schedule I was working with. But
Is there some kind of service level agreement or contract with them? Do we
Yes.
pay these guys, or what's the penalty for not having delivered this?
Well, there's a
I get
30
a month delay, but 5 months?
30-day notice of cancellation, so we can, we didn't pay that much for it. We're not that far, so it's not like we're losing money. I think probably we got our money's worth with what we have, and we have not received another bill. So
So what they're doing is, I'm sorry, it's just compiling the results and presenting a summation of that?
We did the resident survey, the town resident survey. We have the data for that. And tomorrow, again, I'll receive a presentation from them. We'll see how far they got with it and how good it is. And then be talking to Kate about our options.
Okay.
We're also working with the Community Fund to try to provide funding and develop a program for Teen Talk program at the middle school. It's been very successful at the high school, and there's been a push to try to extend it to the middle school, at least having us participate in the funding for that program, utilizing opiate settlement grant funds. It's not a grant, it's just opiate settlement funds, in part to help support that position for a year, to try to seed to get it going in the schools.
Yeah, so that was something we discussed in a meeting with them,
Yes.
I don't know, a month or so ago.
Yes.
What's changed since then? How is that moving along? Have you finalized your ability to direct or purpose that funding towards this effort on your end in terms of the opioid settlement
Yes.
money? And is the community, is the community fund on board to kind of move that forward, or kind of what's
We're
next?
working on the numbers.
Okay.
It's a discussion right now on who's going to pay for what.
Okay.
So we're not at the point of committing to anything, other than to say that we'd like to support the program if we can come up with the right type of financing.
Maybe you could pull together another meeting so we keep that moving along. I'd be happy to sit in on
I
that discussion.
reached out to Janet King on last Thursday.
Okay.
And so I was hoping that she would get back to me in time so that I could
Okay.
report something more definitive today, but I have not heard back from
Yeah,
her.
throw me on that email chain when you hear back
Okay.
from her, and I'd like to hear what's going on
Sure.
with that. Okay, please keep going.
And we'll be having the time we booked at the library to do the presentation for the community health needs assessment has been replaced by a program that we're offering on ticks, and an educational program for residents. It's going to be presented by the lead scientist from the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, who runs the tick testing program. So we're pretty excited about utilizing that time booked to have this presentation. A lot of concern and interest about ticks, and this is going to be another banner year for ticks and tick-related diseases, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So that's called Everything You Want to Know or Don't Want to Know About Ticks. It'll be at the library, May 14th, from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And finally, I just want to point out 6 new facilities opened, restaurants in town in the last quarter. And I'll be meeting with you a little bit later to talk about streamlining our permit fees for plan reviews.
Okay, good. One of the things you and I talked a little bit about before, which I thought was an excellent point, and that is just having tighter coordination with building inspections, so that when there's a building inspection process or timeline, that there's also in parallel a health inspection, to the extent that there's a restaurant or some facility that merits health inspections from you guys. Has that gotten better? Have you spent any time?
We've been communicating with, in particular, planning and zoning and building departments on that, and public works also with the grease traps. But we haven't really established a regular meeting program for it.
Okay.
It's been on an as-needed basis, but I think
Okay.
the communication has gotten better.
Okay. Terrific. Other questions for David? Sarah?
The Teen Talk counselor, is that through Kids in Crisis?
Yes.
Yes, that's just curious. Thank you.
Okay, Monica?
And sticking with that, the opioid money, have we received as much as we're going to receive? Or is there any, I can't remember, is it
paid
over
out?
I
15
think it's a
years, right?
15 or 18-year
think it's
regular
18.
payment program, so it's going to be an ongoing source of income.
And are you considering using that ongoing stream to fund the Teen Talk, or is there?
Not
or-
continuously.
Initially.
So it's just the 1
It's
year?
just- It's intended to seed the program and ultimately have the Board of Ed take it over.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Terrific.
But just to get it going, because it wasn't in the budget for this year. So
Right.
we're hoping to get it going so it'll be available in the fall.
Right, okay.
Has there been a number associated with that program yet?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
Well, it's $100,000 for the position.
Okay.
And so, and what we're looking at is trying to figure out amongst the organizations that are trying to establish this, who can pay for how much.
Okay.
So it's just a numbers agreement that we have to come up with, because we're all in support of the program.
Yeah.
But we don't want it to be coming out of that grant forever, because that
Yep.
grant does have an end
Yep.
date. And, try and get it started, but we
Right.
can't fund it forever.
A year or two is really kind of the time frame we're looking at, and not paying for the whole thing.
What does the opiate settlement fund give per year?
How much do we get per year? I
Yeah.
think right now we're getting about
65.
65,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions for David? Congratulations again on your tenure and your upcoming retirement. Round of applause for Mr. Cow. Okay, thank you. Human Resources, Susan.
Well, there's been a lot of recruitment this quarter, again. There hasn't been a quarter yet where we haven't been doing a lot of interviewing and everything else. The thing that has changed since the report, where I kind of broke down everything, is that we can finally announce who our new Parks and Recreation Director is going to be, for those in the room that don't already know. I know you guys do. But her name is Jennifer Fava, and she comes to us from Westport. She has been the Parks and Rec Director there for 9 years. Prior to that, she was a director in New York for 9 years, and she's got tons of experience in that area. So we will be welcoming Jen on May 28th. That will be her first day. So very happy that that's over. It's been a very long process. There were a lot of really, really great candidates, and I appreciate all of your help in doing that. It was not an easy decision for you guys, I know. So thank you for that. As far as the top 5, right now we've got a lot going on. It's a busy time in HR. Thank you to all the department heads who got your performance evaluations into me last week for our union people. That's always the first step. The Town Hall Union and Public Works Union have performance evaluations or service ratings that were due last week, and everybody got them in, mostly. And now we'll be working on the non-representatives, which is the really fun part. I know you all love it. I do too. So this is when all of our department heads and non-represented employees will go through a self-evaluation, a goals review, and then a final performance review. So that's happening this month and next month. We will also be going through open enrollment next month, so it's going to be a little bit busy. And then just to make sure that we don't get bored, we're also working on negotiating both the Town Hall Union contract and our new dispatcher union contract. Those will both be happening simultaneously. We do have 8 dispatchers right now, and number 9 is in the background process, so we're almost there. And then on June 4th, we're going to be offering a retirement information session for all town employees. That's going to include myself talking about our town pension plan. We're going to have a representative from Mission Square to be here talking about the 457, the 401. Ally's going to be talking about Medicare for us, and then we've got someone coming from the Social Security Administration to talk about Social Security. So it's kind of an opportunity for our employees to come and learn about every aspect about retirement. And we will be sending out...
What time is that meeting on the 24th?
I'm sorry?
Or on the 4th? What
June
time?
4th.
Or what time?
I don't think we have a time set up yet. That's the date that we're set up with. Once we have those, we're waiting for the Social Security representative to give us his availability that day. And as soon as we know that, we're going to send an email invitation out to everyone. And what we're asking people to do is if they have questions, specific questions that they know they're going to want to ask at the session, if they can email those questions to us ahead of time so we can get them to the presenters, because as much information as we can get into their presentations as possible, the shorter time we would need for questions afterwards. So we're hoping to get a good attendance there and that people can learn a lot about and prepare for retirement. So, oh, and the last thing is I attended our National Association's annual training conference last week, or the week before last. And it's the National Public Employer Labor Relations Association. So it's HR specific and labor relations strictly for municipalities. And the interesting thing that came out of there as far as an industry trend right now was the use of ChatGPT and AI in human resources and labor relations. It's actually really cool and it can be really, really helpful. And then, of course, there are some pitfalls specifically with recruitment that we're going to have to be more mindful of as we move forward.
Can you give some examples? I read that comment and I kind of...
Well, for example, we're probably going to start getting a lot of really amazing cover letters and resumes, and so the interview process is going to become that much more important because it's going to be more important to meet the person in person and really get a feel for who they are, because the cover letter, which used to really give you a glimpse inside of someone's personality and experience and ability to communicate effectively, is something that we won't for sure know if we're hearing from them or a little bit of enhanced, So just mostly stuff like that is that, we're going to have to really keep our eye on. But on the other hand, when it comes to policy writing or even forms, coming up with forms and stuff, it can be a really, really helpful tool. We got a live demonstration, which was really interesting, where they were, saying, like, if you wanted to create a policy about something, you can upload your current policies into ChatGPT, which takes like 5 seconds, and then show them the policy that you want to create and say, is there any conflict with any of the other policies that we have and stuff like that. It can be a really helpful tool as long as you learn how to use it.
Okay, I just wanted to compliment you and Kate and others who were involved in kind of choreographing the interview process for the Parks and Rec Director. It was terrific, just the sequencing, the organization. We've got a great result. You all will have a chance to meet Jennifer. She's terrific, brings a wealth of experience, and it was through your efforts that we had a great candidate, so thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Susan?
So I have one. Is it typical for the dispatchers, is it typical for them to have their own bargaining unit?
A lot of towns do that, yes. They are often put in with the town hall union, clerical union, but it's not a good fit at all. They don't fit anywhere else. They don't fit with public works. They can't be in with police because they're not sworn officers. But their schedule is so different, their priorities are so different from the clerical union that it really does not make sense to have them in there. But oftentimes, when a civilian dispatch develops, and you've got 1, then 2, then 3 people, they just throw them into an existing union because you can't really have a union of 1 or 2 or 3 people. And so it's relatively common for them to come out. And during this process, I have reached out to about 8 towns in Connecticut that I know of that did exactly what we're doing and pulled their dispatchers out of theirs, just to get some feedback from the HR directors there of, things to look out for as we go through this process. But I think at the end of the day, I know it's one more contract we're going to have to deal with all the time, but I think it's going to be better for everybody, for them and for us.
And it was not our choice. We don't get to dictate that.
True.
They petitioned to form their own.
Right, we just didn't.
We just didn't object.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum number? Because I know our dispatch fluctuates. Is there a minimum number for that unit?
I don't know.
No.
It would just be who's ever in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right now, if there's 8 people, it'll be 9 when it's fully staffed. And that'll be what they're. If they're a union smaller than that, if it's for something specific like this.
Got it.
But they're part of a much larger union, correct? Or is this just a teeny tiny single union?
Well, they'll be represented by UPSU, which is a.
Got it, okay. Okay, other questions for Susan? Thank you.
Thank you.
Human Services, Ally.
Good morning. Well, speaking of mental health first aid, so we do have it on the 15th and 16th at Post 53. We can have up to 30 people, and we have over 20 now registered. And actually, I think about 4 or 5 from the newsletter.
Great.
Mhm. And Marcy, we have one college student who's on Joe's
That's great.
team, who's a freshman in college, who's doing it. So yeah, it's open to the public. There's still room, and we're paying that with ARPA funds. We'll have more throughout the year as well. We have to have at least 3. So we'll probably have another one. Believe it or not, in August last year, we did have a good turnout. So that'll probably be the next one. And then the biggest highlight from my report is obviously the issue we had with protective services for the elderly. It took almost 2 weeks for them to respond to the initial referral that I put in. On a woman, obviously, we only use those when the cases are extremely concerning. Thankfully, and the state doesn't know this, but thankfully the families involved in this case and stayed with the woman. If that wasn't the case, it would have been much more concerning. And that person was actually evaluated by a doctor last week with protective services at her home, so it's going to go to probate and she's going to be conserved. But it's 13 days.
No
Should be within
response,
48
no-
hours.
No response to the letter you've sent?
Tracy Mara responded asking if she can be of help. Bob Duff said he was going to look into it, and then the commissioner of DSS, one of her assistants passed it along to the woman who's in charge of protective services, but nothing yet.
Okay.
And our local protective services is amazing. So we have a great rapport with them. And there's 4 social workers out of the Stamford office. So it's not them, it's more, and my understanding is they're not giving overtime and typical, they don't have enough bodies to answer all the calls, but almost 2 weeks to answer a call, that's disturbing.
Not good.
And that's about it.
That's about it. Anything on your wish list?
World peace, cure for cancer. No, nothing pertaining to human services at this point.
Those are good, though.
That's not bad.
Can you deliver?
Duly noted. Questions for Ally?
Thank you for all you do.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay. George, IT.
Just briefly, stuff that we've been working on. It's the replenishing of a lot of the older equipment, monitors, stuff that with individual offices, fire departments, certain things. Also, at the police department, there was a transition of the new software that finally was implemented, getting rid of the old system and the new one. That's going well, and with the gentleman who's there now, Rob, who's a technician person there, he's been fantastic keeping that together.
Great.
It was very beneficial because from his previous job, he had a very huge background in NextGen, which is the software we're using. So that made it smooth. They had that cyber thing that Jeff had sent out, an email, so people can just get a kind of like a small video on certain things to look for with emails or, just the things that can compromise our network, what you should click on and not. It's a big deal now because you're always getting these scam things everywhere. So it's difficult. I guess just being better at trying to get that out to people resource-wise is helpful. That's basically it,
I'm kind of interested in the point here about the cybersecurity practices. Looks like it was all reviewed. Where are you on both sort of cybersecurity perfection, implementation of dual factor authentication for email, all that sort of thing?
Yeah,
Where
I
are
mean,
you?
we're going through, we're just double checking. I know that we've got that current one that we have for our email, where it goes back to your telephone.
Right.
So if you're signing into any other website on the web, it'll send you a code so you can get past, so this way you can actually access your email.
And how often does that trigger that? Because I had a password reset notice for my email, so I reset that password, but I didn't have to go through any kind of a dual factor authentication to confirm that I was doing that. Or
I know that, with Outlook, it kind of retains it and holds it. I know that if you go through the internet, every time you log into an internet site, it'll update, and that's when it'll ask you again for the actual code. I think with Outlook, because you've got the security of you logging in, to your PC, you can't have access to Outlook unless you get past that first security thing. I don't know how often it does it. I think it'll probably, it looks like, I've been trying to follow it. It doesn't happen often with Outlook, but within the actual internet browsers, it happens all the time.
Okay. Questions for George? Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir.
The Knicks. I want the Knicks. That's my wish.
Yes. Next, duly noted.
I'll join you on that.
Big letters underlined. All right, thank you, George. Mr. Ginsburg.
Good morning. See from the Planning and Zoning report, a lot of work on town projects this past quarter, approving work on Great Island, the Weed Beach Meadows and Trails project, which has since been put on hold, and we'll be having a public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission, on the Hanson Road Bridge project tomorrow. The other big items are the accessory dwelling units. Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing. They're likely to decide the matter at their meeting, one of their early May meetings. Generally, at the hearing, the response from most people was positive. There were a few residents that voiced concerns, and so the commission trying to find the right balance, and we'll see where that takes us in May. Two other items of recent note. Basically, since the quarter has ended, the Environmental Protection Commission updated the town's wetlands map. They do that every few years based upon information received from property owners. That new map's been posted to the town website, filed with the town clerk, and took effect recently.
Is that something that EPC does itself, or is there state guidance, and doesn't the state specify all that?
The state gives two options. One for a homeowner, if they come across new information, to change the map by themselves with the EPC's approval. Or what the EPC has done is when the owners submit information, and it's slightly different or very different from the town map, depending, the EPC will say, we're going to approve your permit, we're going to take this information you gave us up, make a whole bunch of other changes to the map, and we do about 30 or 40 changes every 2 years based on that. So this is, as I said, something we've done every few years, and get that map more and more accurate through the years. The town is now, I expect it to be complete later this week or early next week, updating their online GIS, which is called MapGeo. New information from Anthony Homicki and his team on ownership, parcel information. We've been working on updating the buildings layer, as I mentioned, the wetlands layer. So we expect that, as I said, within the next few working days.
So that's a tremendous tool, by the way.
It does provide help to many departments in many different aspects, especially when you're mailing something to someone, to have that updated list of owners.
Right. What's the issue about having a public hearing on Hanson Road Bridge? Why is that necessary? It's just an infrastructure repair matter.
State statutes require that on a special permit, planning and zoning commissions must have a special hearing, public hearing rather. So if it's a special permit, it requires a public hearing, state statute. Okay. In this case, we have a land filling and regrading application. They're doing some regrading near some property lines, which, according to our regulations, triggers a special permit, which triggers a public hearing.
Terrific. Questions for Jeremy?
Hey, Jeremy, on the wetlands map, do you do any kind of outreach to people that will be impacted by the change, or do you just expect, is it just that people will find this out on their own?
It is very rare that we would change the map for someone who doesn't know that they've given us a map update. Because the only way for us to get that updated soil scientist information, Great Island is an example. There were some wetlands identified 6 months ago,
right,
which we didn't know about. It's a little different than our town map. That was given to us as part of a number of applications, so we took that and updated the map. So it is very rare that the map changes without the owner having given us the information.
Got it. Okay.
Great. Other questions? Jeremy, thank you.
Sure thing.
Chief Marin, Police Department.
coming on. Well, we've been busy, as usual. And I apologize if the report maybe wasn't in alignment with what the board is looking for. It's tough to kind of hone in on and narrow down what we think is important versus what you may think is important. So I'm happy to answer any questions that's not addressed through the report. But a couple of things that may stand out is our calls for service in this first quarter were lower than previous quarters, but historically we recognize that the first quarter does tend to have a lower amount of calls for service. Not exactly sure what the metric is that causes that. Maybe, I know there's a couple of school breaks involved, and I don't know what really adds up or takes away from the final number there, but it's what we've seen the last few years. Accidents remained about the same. We're right around the 90, 91 mark. Actually, the first quarter of 2023 was 76. Again, not exactly sure what brings that number to where it is. Some things that may stand out, I just wanted to explain a little bit. We had a sexual assault in our statistics here. It's, without going into too much detail, it's 2 employees at a commercial establishment in town here, and we have a uncooperating victim at this point, so I don't know how far that investigation is going to go, but it is a reportable offense as categorized. There's also a robbery in there, which may be a little alarming, but that was the incident we recently had at Whole Foods where some cash and a wallet was taken by force in a parking lot, so not like anybody's waving guns around or anything, but it does end up being classified as a robbery based on what happened in that incident. Something that stood out to me is our DWI arrests from the first quarter in 2023 versus this first quarter was very low. 12 DWI arrests back in the first quarter of 2023 and only 2 in this quarter. And speaking with the supervisors on the on the midnight shift, they have reported that they see Uber all over the place from the bars. There's nobody driving coming out of bars for the most part. Mainly Ernie's is where we're really monitoring.
God bless
They seem to be the biggest offenders. A lot of people taking the train and a lot of people using the ride share, so we're happy to see that. Lastly, in the stats, the custodial arrests back in the first quarter of 2023 were way up, and we only saw almost half, or a little more than half, for this quarter. And when I spoke with the Detective Bureau, they reported that back in the first quarter of 2023, there was a lot of warrant service. It's all hinged upon when warrants come back from the court and people turning themselves in, and it wasn't an uptick in crime or anything like that. So the stats may make it seem like that may be the case, but it wasn't. The trends, the wish list, we ask everybody for a wish list, if people can continue to lock their cars. It's pretty amazing, but that seems steady as far as car thefts, basically the same as the same quarter last year.
Can I ask just briefly
Sure.
about that? And just reading this and the blotter and all of that, two trends that seem to be taking place. One of them is that it's not just cars that are being left unlocked that people are breaking into at night. I've read more that it's sort of windows being broken and sort of smashed in to steal something out of the car. Are you actually seeing that trend where there's sort of more breaking and entering as opposed to just opening an unlocked car that's got the keys inside?
I don't think it's more, and ironically enough, I stood in once before for Chief Anderson at one of the meetings here, and I spoke about this group called the Felony Lane Gang. They travel up from Fort Lauderdale all the way to the East Coast, and they target daycare centers, YMCAs, public parks, and fitness centers, because those are the places where women tend to leave purses behind in their car, because they don't want to bring it on a walk with them or bring it into the gym. And for obvious reasons, you're worried about the security in those establishments, but this group knows that, and they come around and they end up breaking a window when they see a purse and sitting on the floor or even hidden in the back on a back seat, and they're targeting checkbooks, credit cards, and cash. And the kind of goal there is to pass off the checkbooks and have checks rewritten to other victims, and they call them the Felony Lane Gang because Felony Lane is that outer lane in the bank drive-through. It's always been known as the Felony Lane because that's where the bank fraud type transactions occur. So they'll dress up like the victims, they'll write checks, they have the identifications, and I've been dealing with that for most of my career. And Darien's not isolated from that. Cherry Lawn Park, the YMCA, Highland Farms just last week, they target those particular victims. So it's tough to, this day and age, it's tough to combat that other than pushing out awareness to people to make sure to secure their valuables. Because even if we witness that, and we throw on the lights and try and stop this car that doesn't have a plate that matches it, we can't go after them, unfortunately. So I wouldn't say that, to answer your question, I wouldn't say that there's an uptick in those types of thefts, but they are happening, and it's completely different than the overnight car burglaries and car thefts. But I did just want to touch on that. What we have seen in this first quarter, a lot of those car thefts are happening during the day now, and it's not exclusively during the overnight. So just last week or a couple of weeks ago, someone was unloading groceries in their own driveway and went in the house, and somebody saw it and came and took the car while they were unloading groceries. So it is a little bit more unusual. We've had several daytime car thefts. I personally think that these would-be thieves can see more during the day, and the targets are a little bit easier identified in daylight hours. So, and we believe it's the same groups. It's Waterbury, New Haven, Hartford, New Britain. That's where our cars are ended up. They're used in other crimes. They're used in robberies. They're used in narcotics transactions. They're used in several other different types of crimes. So we continue to ask our residents to lock their cars and take their keys with them.
Chief, do you have any perspectives to add on the shoplifting? Because I've read a few reports that talk about, there's the threat that Whole Foods and Trader Joe's know about that, but just Stop and Shop, Walgreens.
Yeah, there's an uptick. And I'm pretty sure what's happening is these bigger chains, the Stop and Shops, the CVS's and the Walgreens, they have nationwide policies where not only are they not letting their employees confront would-be thieves or shoplifters, they just want them out of the store, and that's fine for safety reasons, but sometimes they don't report it to us for days after. And I'm not exactly sure why they're even reporting it to us at this point, but we had 2 reported to us yesterday from CVS, and I don't know whether they're waiting for them to kind of stack up before they want to call us and have us stop by, but we're trying to work with management, both on a regional level and our local level, to kind of, somehow be on the same page a little bit more than we are now. But there aren't any particular, well, there are some groups out of New Jersey, New York, and some out of the Carolinas that are organized crime type situation where they're coming up targeting baby formula, hair care products, stuff that could be sold on the street or in bodegas in New York City relatively easily. But we also have just the people who are in need, and they're on their own, and they kind of hit our Stop and Shop, hit our Walgreens, and our CVS the next week. So we've had some luck identifying those suspects, so I credit our detectives for that. But we do have the groups that are coming from out of state that kind of take us on a wild goose chase, and just through networking and different types of investigation, we hope to identify them, but then.
Well, you notice when you go to some of the bigger towns, where the CVS's and stores, they're all locked down now.
Yeah.
There's just a few things that you can actually buy without a clerk coming over with a key. And I'm just wondering when we're going to get to that point in Darien, of all places.
Well, the CVS specifically, I know they have several areas of the store that are under lock and key, and not even all the employees have access to it. There's only certain employees that have access to it. So that's something that I've seen that's a little bit different lately.
But nothing you've seen that from any of that activity that would pose a safety risk to folks in town, or you've
No,
not
in
seen
fact,
it dangerous?
Most of our incidents have been very non-confrontational. And I know it's not this quarter, but just in the last week or so, I think it was Stop and Shop. There was a male-female duo that loaded up some carts of groceries, and I think it was Tide, actually, Tide detergent. And they were trying to get out the store without paying it. And when they were confronted, they just left, and they left the carts and left the area. So we're not seeing anything really that's posing a public safety risk. We just wish that these establishments maybe would call us a little earlier, or while it's happening, give us a
fighter's chance to make an arrest and at least push them to the next CVS, maybe in another town.
Okay.
Sometimes that's part of what we need to do. Yeah, so those are kind of the trends. Some of you might have heard we had some local carjackings. They weren't specifically in Darien in our jurisdiction, but they were up on the highway in the rest area. It was one particular group. I believe they targeted one of the Darien rest areas, then Milford, and then also in Fairfield. But there were arrests made in that as well. Top 5, obviously there's been a couple of personnel shifts. We have a new dispatcher in training. We have 2 new officers that have just come off their field training to add to our ranks. Fortunately, we did have a fatal motor vehicle accident back in February that involved the death of a young driver. Building issues, we've always kind of had building issues for the last 15 years or so, and I appreciate everybody's help that has any attachment to helping us kind of get through our maintenance issues, and I appreciate all the collaboration, all the town boards, and again, back to wish lists. We've asked for a lot lately, and nothing that we don't need, so I thank everybody for their cooperation and patience with that. And then George mentioned a little bit NextGen. That's our other big thing. We've switched our computer-aided dispatch and records management system to NextGen. I think it's being received pretty well. Some of the officers that have come from other agencies that have used it in the past seem to think that we're transitioning way ahead of schedule and doing well with it. And as George mentioned, our public IT professional, he has come from an agency that also used NextGen, and he's been very helpful in keeping our guys up and running. So it's a change, it's a shift, but I think everybody's doing well with it. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'll ask Ed more a little bit about the collaboration between Public Works and the department on the management of the building, and just kind of changing the oversight model for all that, but hopefully that's coming along in terms of getting a solution in place. Okay. Other questions for the chief?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one thought. On the calls for service and the motor vehicle accident, you have, quarterly comparisons. Do you think you could throw up, go back a year also?
You mean in future quarterly reports?
Yeah.
I mean, I have data from, oh no, I don't. Our printer wasn't working this morning. I couldn't print that. But sure, we can definitely make that adjustment.
Great.
So you said regarding motor vehicle accidents and calls for service?
Yeah. Yeah, and that graphic, you could just throw up maybe previous year also?
Sure. And I do want to credit Lieutenant Derek Mulcahy. He did the lion's share of the work putting this report together. He's a great asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gentile, Public Works.
Hey, good morning. With the new outline that our first selectman put together, I gave our author some latitude, as you did in the email. I think he took a little bit of advantage of it and kind of set it up for you to ease you into our top 5. And then the 24 appendices at the end.
28.
28, I'm sorry. He added more
One question
after I
in
looked.
27 parts. Okay.
So I'll just touch on the top 5 that he had put together here. Our Gorham's Pond Dam is out to bid right now. We're looking to get some numbers back before we come in for the appropriation. I think this is, because of the type of project it is, a warranted process. Our numbers are a little all over the place with regards to construction right now. And we feel that we do have time before we can actually start working on this project. Right now, though, we do not have a written confirmation for funding from FEMA. They will not be providing that to us. Their last email to us was to do this work, we have to appropriate it and spend the money. And while we're doing that, submit for reimbursement, and they will let us know if they're going to give us the money to do that.
Can you
That was a
comment?
little disturbing when I heard that part.
Yeah.
I was,
Spend it and
that's
we'll
not
give you
good at
money
all.
back if you, yeah.
yeah.
Do you think it's qualified for it?
We have held their hand through the process for the last year,
Mhm.
making sure that we've submitted all the documentation they've required in a very quick response to them. And so yes, I do believe that it is covered, but no one wants to tell us that it is.
Yeah.
I met with a gentleman from Friends of Gorham Pond, and he was talking up at the top of Gorham's Pond, there's a dam or some kind of a bridge that's up there. How does all that fit into your overall maintenance plan for this asset?
We had replaced that my second year here, replaced that dam up there with, and included a fish ladder up there.
Right.
We had gotten a steep grant for that work, almost a little over $500,000 worth to do it. And at that time, we looked at that as a primary source of siltation coming down. So that we put the dam back in place, we made it functional, but it's all on private property. So my maintenance up there is the fish ladder and the fish ladder only. We have in the past with the Friends of Gorham Pond, worked out a situation where if they would bring the debris to the road's edge, or whatever it may be, they want to clean up the dam a little bit, I will send a truck over there and I'll pick everything up and take it away. Just to keep the functionality of that stream working.
Okay.
Our second topic is Hanson Road Bridge. Jeremy touched on that. We do have a meeting tomorrow night. We do have one of the 3 easements signed off on. We're working with the last 2 property owners right now. Board of Selectmen will be seeing those easements as soon as we get them. At that which time, hopefully we'll be out to bid as soon as those easements come in. So that's the timeline right now, is the critical path of that project.
Hey, Ed, on those, are those permanent easements or temporary?
They're both. A couple properties we need more property during construction, but we don't need it towards the end. Some of them will have apparatuses from the road, which would be guardrails, bridge abutments, or wing walls that kind of extend into people's property. We had to take some permanent easements on 2 of the 3 properties. Third item, the sanitary sewer inflow and infiltration removal. We are into the second phase of rehab right now. We're about 50% completed. We do have funds in place to complete the third phase. We'll start design in July. Hopefully by December, we'll start that third phase, and we'll be done with the first overall section of town, hopefully starting to see some improvements. But this is the critical part of the work on this item. We're doing all manhole rehabs, manhole cover rehabs, and we just finished the pipe lining work about a month ago. So we're into that second phase right now.
Sorry, can I go back to the Hanson Bridge? When are you guys thinking of starting that project?
As soon as possible.
So will school still in session?
There's a good chance that it will get started while school's in session. My goal is to finish and have the road open to access by September 1st. Right now, those easements, though, are pushing that schedule on me.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because
we
that
have
traffic on Hoyt is going to be bananas if you close down Hanson Road for anybody in North Darien to get to downtown.
They could use Hollow Tree to go
Hollow
down.
Tree.
And we have a detour plan in place, take Hollow Tree and Middlesex, everything down to the closer to town or further north on Oxridge to get around the detour. Trying to keep the detour as tight as possible.
Okay.
But it comes to demo, replacement, road opening. I don't have to have everything finished to open up the road, but I do have the road to have it stable.
Good luck.
Thank you. Fourth item, solid waste disposal contract. We do have their final proposal. We're just looking at the items right now. Darren and I are going to be looking to meet with Kate and Jen just to go over the particulars of the contract, make sure we didn't miss anything. Another set of eyes is not going to hurt us. We do have a little bit of time, but the Board of Selectmen are going to be seeing that contract in front of them soon also.
Do the economics of that contract deviate significantly from what you budgeted?
It's probably a little bit less.
Okay.
A little bit less, and then in the future, it'll be less. That
Okay.
was the goal. I gave you worst-case scenario in my budget. The items, we ranged them up a little bit higher, with the hope to negotiate them down, and we were able to bring it down a little bit.
Okay, great.
Final salt box drainage project, of course, you guys are all well aware of it. We are about 33% complete, about a third of the way there right now with our design. Just starting to look at easement areas, existing and proposed of what we need. We do have some easements for our drainage. Others, as we find out here in town, are older. We don't have easements through some of the people's properties. So we'll need to go back to them and to talk to them about that.
Where are we on the other project, Tilly Pond, for design for all that?
The surveyor is out there right now doing the survey work.
Okay.
They flagged the wetlands about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, and then when do you expect the salt box design work and, I guess, easement effort to be completed so that that can go to an approval process?
That could be 6 months to 9 months.
Okay.
From right now. The identifying them is the hard part. Trying to work out a path of least resistance for the drainage. Some of it through tighter properties, like Du Bois Street, has some tight properties in there and has drainage through it that I'm guessing some people don't even know were there. So I think bringing those residents up to speed that we have drainage on the property, whether we do or do not have an easement, letting them know that, and then negotiating an easement with them. My last project over on the west side of town in the Holmes area, we actually had to redesign a section. There was one neighbor that just would not give us an easement. So we ended up having to redesign a section of the drainage.
Hey, Ed, going back to the sanitary, are you going to do any pipelining in Phase 3, and are you done with pipelining in Phase 2?
Completed in Phase 2, and there will be another 13,000 feet of pipelining done in Phase 3.
Okay. And then do you anticipate that's the end of pipelining for a while, or?
For a while. We have a second phase of the I&I study where you go out and do another section of town and identify what pipes have inflow and infiltration, what manholes, and you put another rehab program together based on that study. So we already have funding set up and in place to start that study as soon as we get Phase 3 of rehab undergo.
Okay, so this is an ongoing.
This will be ongoing for another, I'd say another 3 years.
Okay.
Other questions for Ed? Ed, thank you. I know. Sorry, go ahead.
Ed, I have one more. On the Q alerts, the numbers, maybe this is Darren's question, but is it possible that some of the previous years were duplicates? I mean, I'm trying to figure out why we have such a big drop.
I think there's the nuance of it being new to the residents, trying to figure out how to use it and what items to pick, I think has taken our numbers down. But I've seen an increase in the use of it now over the last couple months. So we'll keep an eye on that, but there weren't many duplicates. There were quite a few call before you digs. Now they're starting to be input into there. That's how we track the call before you digs. And that's why I separate them out during the budget process.
Okay, I guess the only other question for me is further to the police department in terms of kind of identifying Public Works oversight of that building and kind of getting that in place so that you've got not just a handle on the building much more clearly, but also there's sort of single point accountability for overseeing that and then sequencing work that needs to be done so that those guys don't have to worry about it. Where are you on that?
I heard that was coming my way. I understand that that's a goal that you'd like to see happen. I think it's going to require us to sit down and talk about who's going to be responsible for what.
Okay.
I think that that would help us kind of get to your point, single point of contact, single point of responsibility.
Yeah, just the theory of this case is that this is a unique building with some challenges, and to have the chief and his professionals in a position where they have to kind of oversee all that when that's not their profession, if you will, is a suboptimal solution. And so trying to get oversight of that physical building transferred to Public Works so that you guys can manage it and stay on top of it, I think is going to be a lot better solution. And then that way, they've got a way to come to Public Works and say, okay, this is what we're seeing or what the issue is, and then hand it to your professionals in terms of what to do next. And so that's the theory of the case. But if we could have some discussions to kind of migrate to that model, I think the department would certainly be better served, and you guys would be much more eyes open about what's going on in the in the building itself in terms of not just problem identification, but prevention.
Understood.
Okay.
One last question. Ed, on Rings End Road Bridge, are you thinking you'll start the work in September or November, I guess?
The thought process was to possibly get the same contractor that's doing the dam to do the bridge. That's why we bid them out at the same time. So we're going to see when we get back our results. But the bridge project requires less oversight. It's less intrusive. So if they come in with different contractors, I'd probably like to get that one done first as soon as DEP will allow us to go out there to start doing work, which I think is the end of September, October.
So how late in the year can you do that work?
We can do that work all through the winter if it stays warm enough.
Okay.
We had, what, 7 inches of snow this year? That would be my wish, too.
What are we
Can we
getting
get more
next-
snow?
What are we getting next year?
What's that?
What are we getting next year?
You want more snow?
My guys they wait for snow.
Oh.
I remind them every year, that's generally why they're here, to move the snow, and they don't believe me anymore. So just a little bit more snow would be nice.
They're missing that winter of like 2011, 2012.
My first year
With
here, I think we had
90 inches.
65 inches of snow.
Wow.
That was 2014, and since then, it's just been
Oh, maybe
kind
that
of-
was the winter.
It was just a little bit worse. And just my wish list, George stole the Knicks. I like the Rangers to do well.
Granted.
Another song.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
That's great. Register our voters, Kara. Susan, there you are in the back, hiding. I have to say, some of the voter awareness programs that the two of you and Krista have done were absolutely terrific, and I just really appreciated that. I talked to a couple of people, and just not only were the meetings well run, but just the content delivery was smooth. I know my wife was sitting in on a few of those things, and she told me as well that those went well. So thanks to all three of you. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you. We plan on running some additional similar ones. The Mather Center has asked us to come back. We're going to work with them on sort of time of year, day, time, like that kind of would help with like having more people avail themselves of the presentation.
That's
and sort
great.
of, piggyback on, a popular lunch or another activity so that they're not missing an already scheduled activity that they participate in, but that they can sort of participate in both. Also been talking to Maplewood and our friends at Selix Woods and the other sort of assisted living places and the library to put on similar, presentations to increase voter outreach and voter awareness, because we heard a lot of, I didn't know about early voting. So while it was slow, this first time around, which, I think we both take the approach of thinking, don't think of it as this was a waste of time and effort. We look at it as this was a great opportunity with low volume to get people trained, get people onboarded, get people used to using the CVRS system, because the procedures for early voting were dramatically different and a completely different process than your election day process. So we viewed the low volume as an opportunity to give people real-time, hands-on learning and experience in anticipation of November, where we anticipate higher turnout. We also had an interesting sort of, revelation, I don't know what the right word is, but one of our districts, we changed the location. So we went from Hindley School to the Weed Beach Paddle Hut, which necessitated us to send out postcards. So we had one district that received postcards alerting them to the presidential preference primary. The turnout at that district was 3-fold higher than the other districts. So
They just wanted to go to the beach, or was it?
yeah, I guess. But I think they got a postcard, so they're like, oh, something's happening.
A lot of people did not know that the primary was happening, so Kara and I need to focus on that in the office and get some publish some notice of our primary elections especially. I think everyone will know that the presidential election is coming up, but we were very surprised at how many people said to us, I had no idea there was a primary election in town. So I don't know if we can do signage and publish it in social media.
I think postcard. I mean, we had it on social media.
Let me bring that up, because I just to read through your report about your need for volunteers to help with all of this extra voting activity, and then just hearing this, I wonder if there's just something more like that we could do, to just say, look, not only are these elections taking place, and here's this extended and more complicated process, but we need help, right, to do all that. I mean, if there's something we could do to maybe put our heads together to assist you in publicizing that need and all of this, maybe there's something we could do, actually.
Yeah, we would definitely appreciate that, and appreciate who have other resources in town, if there's other departments, human services, that know of people who are, transitioning, need new additional skills, need some additional work experience or references or recommendations. Certainly if, they come on board, do work early voting with us, they get additional computer skills, they work some additional days. I know personally, I would be happy as a public citizen and a private person to serve as a reference for somebody, right? We can't provide full-time work for them, but right, if you're looking to transition in life where, say, you lost a job or you're looking for new, to transition to a new job, getting additional work experience, having a new reference, having some additional skills, I think could be a useful experience. So I'm trying to think outside the box in terms of how can we recruit. I think the presentations at additional places both gets the word out, it gets publicized that something's happening, and then we can make our pitch for people. I think also we need to start with early voting because they're working more days and not just election day. They're going to be seasonal, temporary workers. So, putting things on the HR website that we're looking for people as opposed to just trying on our own through our website, which doesn't really get as much traffic. We're kind of modernizing those efforts as well, going to like Google Forms so people can easily, if they are interested, go onto our website, fill out a Google form right then and there, which would get submitted to us. We could see it real time as opposed to having to come in, do a paper application. On our wish, yeah, go ahead.
So I just put together some things that I think are concerning us the most this year. This would be I combined our top 5 and our wish list. And that would be staffing and training and administering early voting for the presidential election. And we may have an August primary. Right now, the primary petitions have to be filed by June 11th in our office. Those races would include the U.S. Congressional 4th District and the U.S. Senate. So we will not know until June, until we're having an August primary, and that turnaround is going to be a little fast because then we have to staff for 7 days of early voting and the primary itself. It will most likely be a Republican primary.
We're pretty positive, we're almost certain that there will be a Republican primary in August, so I've already, the Secretary of State has given us additional leeway. The legislature didn't time properly when you have to have certain information into the Secretary of State. They didn't align it right with deadlines for primary petitions, so our notification and certification of early voting primary location and primary early voting plan was due April 3rd and 15th, though the petitions aren't due till June. So the Secretary of State's like, we get it, it's fine. So we have till the end of this month. So I've already begun planning, preparing those documents because it is fairly certain that on the Republican side, there will be a primary. So the recruiting for that and the planning.
So when you say staffing, it really is person power to run all of these elections as opposed to your department needing additional staff to do it.
It's just increased tenfold the number of people, but we did recruit some great people through the senior center and some of our outreach programs, and we have a growing list of people who are wonderful. We've already trained.
Can I just add to that? RTM, lots of terrific civic-minded people that I am sure.
That's a great suggestion.
But the problem with that, Monica, is that in our RTM board, we always have an RTM election every year. And up until now, we've been able to have our RTM members who are on the ballot work for us in a different poll district from their own so that they're not on that ballot. The Secretary of State cracked down and said no more.
Really?
If your RTM members are running, they cannot work in the election. Now that took away a good number of people.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're we're recruiting people right now to be certified moderators and even assistant registrars to get their certification. So we'll be able to they'll take the place of the people who are running, who are on the ballot. There's nothing we can do about it. We've appealed to the Secretary of State's office. We've spoken to them. We've written to them. The answer is no.
So what I would suggest is those people that are no longer eligible, and I can think off the top of my head, a few of them, I'll bet if you reach out to them and you say, you know what, I know you can't do this, but I need 3 people that you can recommend.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. So we're also really concerned about the health of our voting machines. The replacement parts are no longer available. It does not look like we will be having them in time for the presidential election. So that is a big concern. But we do have backup tabulators. They just break. They break. They broke in the last election. They broke in the election before that. So that's a concern, but it's a statewide concern, and we're going to have to deal with it along with all the other registrars. We also are waiting for our new voter registration system, which we should be getting, I think they said by June?
Yeah, we'll get it by June. They're depending on whether to roll it out in time. They're thinking about not rolling it out initially because people were just trained for early voting on the old system. They're concerned about if there's enough time to train the registrars of voters and then the early voting workers on a completely new system. It's a new vendor. It's not just a different user interface, it is a different system. Like, for example, instead of manually entering addresses, it's using MapGeo. Like, it is wholly different. But what's exciting about it, so that'll be up to the powers that be in Hartford about whether it gets rolled out now or later. I suspect, given the contract ending with the old vendor, and it'll be rolled out. No, I think the contract ends in July. So I think then, what's exciting about the new system, while there'll be a stiff learning curve and it'll be a very tight turnaround, it does have additional functionalities, and it has a poll book that can be purchased by municipalities to use at poll sites, which would provide a lot of advantages. And it's same vendor, same software. So it would be sort of a seamless poll book that could be used to decrease the amount of time to do data entry on turnout post-election, which now takes us a few weeks of 2 people manually entering it. It would be like the next day done. So, in sort of man hours and time, it would increase efficiencies dramatically. And since it seamlessly works with the new system, it's the same software, it's just an iPad basically, it's something that we're seriously considering, and I think it's time to modernize and time to move in that direction. There's also, on my wish list or priorities, given the amount of staffing and recruiting that we have to do in managing these people, not as one-off poll workers, but as seasonal temporary employees, there are software systems available to allow for, that are designed for, county, where, states that had county workers where they are constantly doing, and referendums have more need. But now we're sort of in that position as well, that allows for, online recruiting, filling out required tax forms, doing sort of, background, and then having a database of people and availability. Which I think, and are they up on their training? Do they need additional certification? What are their skill levels? And sort of having it a database rather than like everything Excel spreadsheet based. So it's something to look into.
And that might actually be offered for free.
It is low cost, yes.
So we're looking into that for the next election.
Okay.
Do you have to be a resident of the town of Darien to be a poll worker in the town of Darien?
Depends on the role.
If you're a tabulator tender, or if you're an assistant registrar, you have to be a resident, but none of the other positions require it.
Okay. I'm mindful of your staffing needs. Is there something that we or I could do to promote that or wave the flag to raise attention to both your staffing need as well as elections themselves?
If you're talking to civic groups, like I know we'll also be trying to make a pitch to get in to see like the Men's Association and speak to them in different groups. We're going to work with the League of Women Voters, the groups we already talked about. But if you are speaking to those groups, definitely make
I
the
will
pitch.
add- I will I'll pitch that. I will do
It
that.
really helps. We have a lot of people from the Men's Association. who
But like,
contacted
you know,
us,
if you
so.
are giving speeches or are going to be speaking to those groups and have time in your, you know, in your talk to add that.
I'm talking to both next month.
Yeah,
so
we
I'll
would
do
certainly
that.
appreciate
Okay.
that for many of you. all of you.
Other questions for
Nope.
Thanks,
Susan
guys.
and Kara? Thank you very
Thank you.
much. That's great. So Beth Paris, Senior Center, potentially at the top of the list of frenetic high-energy activity. The list of stuff you guys is great.
Laugh a little bit, fascinated. Okay, that's the name of the game. Good morning, everybody. I did a top 5. It was hard for me because it's hard for me ever to be short and sweet. But my senior center, our key tag assignment is starting in May. Everybody's going to get their key tags. We have put them all in. Staff has been trained. We're going to do a training 2 days in May, and June it'll go live. So
And these are just check-in key tags?
yeah,
for
the check-in
like
key
at the
tags. We're
gym?
going to be helping people put them on their keychains as well. We're going to teach them how to use it. And what we did was, we did the 823 that are coming into the center already of Darien residents, and then the almost 200 non-residents. So they're all been assigned already. Their names are on envelopes, so we've been that organized. So that handout's going to start in May, and we'll start utilizing it in June. The next thing is the focus group for service expansion and promotion. Your next quarterly report, you'll get the results of that. We're almost done finishing tabulating them, but we've already started to implement some of the suggestions that have been made with some of the programming needs that people have wanted and are looking for, that we thought was very innovative. We had over 29 folks came. We're doing another focus group in May, really about promotion, getting the word out about what the center does do, and about service expansion too. So we hope to get at least that many more people in. We have questions set up. We break them up into small groups, and then we come back together again and chat. Caregiver information, I'm looking now at offering regular meetings because the caregiver support group, I know I said this in the last quarter, people coming to that group have gotten, the numbers getting larger and larger. And also some of the needs that are coming from that actual support group are getting like more walk-in stuff. For instance, on Friday, we had the Hoot Owls and Chris Coogan, wonderful big entertainment event. And 3 separate spouses came in at different times, of course unannounced, that were very, very stressed. And I ended up doing one-to-one with the 3 of them separately. But all for specific reasons of either placement or bad news from a doctor, or just I can't handle what's going on. So I'm looking at doing some regular evening programming will be able to reach out to more of that sandwich generation, and so folks know that we have that as a resource, and it seems to be more and more needed. We're also getting people coming in with their more frail parent with a companion wanting to utilize the center. I'm really trying to keep that only to Darien residents because there's a lot of special attention that has to be paid to that, and making sure the people are appropriate that come in, and also that the companions are appropriate. But there's been exclusively for people that have cognitive issues. So it's not physical issues, it's cognitive issues. And we're able to do it. We're absolutely able to do it, and allow them to be able to have a good experience while they're at the center without making other people uncomfortable. So that's my bailiwick. That's the love of my heart, so I will continue to do that. Staff educational opportunities, basically the staff that we brought on board, our program specialists and our activity assistant, have great skills, but no background at all in aging. So I'm needing to find things that they can do either on Zoom or that I can send them to. I am doing training, of course, on the regular, giving information. That's how we end up learning how to run program and to be visionary about what we need to do in the future. But they need to have it now kind of in their own DNA as well. So I'm looking for opportunities for that. Just to let you know, I did set this up a little differently, so I made it shorter, but I wanted you to see where I bolded the health and wellness, education, academic, creative pursuits, entertainment, fun, services, all that on the side. Those presentations are always different every single month. And that's a lion's share of a lot of stuff that we're doing simultaneous to the other side, which is weekly. What you see that we do weekly is always in, collaboration with what we do monthly. And monthly, we're doing a tremendous amount. And that I will give great credit to our new program specialist who's been reaching out. There's not a suggestion that I make to Caitlin that she doesn't pursue. So our newsletter is packed and there's simultaneous program going on, so.
Terrific.
I've left you speechless, so it means I can leave the phone. No.
I have a really quick question. The survey that you did, what was your response? Do you remember how many people?
We got 400 people to respond. That's what's taking us a little bit of time to break it down. And we had come up with the categories of programs ourselves, and then we had them expanded out to things like that we didn't think about. So we'll be able to, when it's all said and done, we'll be able to give it to you, so you can actually look at it.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do for our seniors.
Pardon?
Yeah, really.
Thank you for all you do for our seniors.
Thank you.
Terrific. Other
My
questions
pleasure.
for Beth?
Nope.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thanks, Beth.
Ms. Larkins, tax collector.
I don't have as much fun as some of these other department heads, but.
But you pay for all the fun.
You're right. Thank you, Kate.
Exactly.
I need my relevance. So as you can see from the report, the collections are pretty much on target with prior year. This is the time of year that makes or breaks how I end the year. So the last week or so, I've been following up with a lot of businesses that owed us money, either phone calls, emails, and have done some in-person visits. As a result, I started off with 140 accounts, and I was able to collect on 60 of them with commitments of more money to come in. Next month, the first week of May, we'll be sending intent to lien notices to those taxpayers who owe us money on their real estate. And again, it will be a lot of follow-up with them, phone calls, emails, like to figure out what's going to come in, what's not going to come in. So I'm always trying to at least get to the prior year and hopefully surpass. And if I had something on my wish list, it would be 100% collection rates every year, but we know that's not going to ever happen. As you can see, there was a couple of significant tax payments that came in this quarter. The first one was due to a sale of the property. The second one was due to, it's a property that's been repossessed by the bank, and they finally decided to make disbursement to pay the taxes in full. The other thing that has been on my wish list since I became tax collector was to have a second certified collector in the office, and that wish will be granted on Thursday, May 9th. Ina will be getting her certificate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so
That's great.
to her. I mean, I'm very excited, so that's amazing. And I don't know if there's any other questions.
You can add to the list, now that you have one checked off.
You know what, I've got a great staff,
You're
I've got
good.
great programs right
She's
now, I'm
happy.
good, but if I need anything, I will let you know, I promise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank you, Kathy. That's great. Krista, town clerk.
All right, good morning, everyone. Well, I guess the benefit of going toward the end, I can give you some updates on what some of my colleagues have reported on. Beginning with blight. October 6, 2022 was the first time a lien was placed on that property that we collected on last week. Stay on blight. When the release was placed, there was a little bit of confusion. We actually had to sit on that lien for several days, the release, I should say. But in several communications with town council, it was resolved and the lien was finally filed for the release and sent back to the filing attorney for the property owners. So going forward, I think we have a better system for the release of liens. So just a note on that. In addition to my report, I did attend the Connecticut Town Clerks Association Conference on Thursday, which was very productive. We heard from multiple state agencies, as 99% of the town clerk's office is dictated by state statute and legislation. We heard from the Security Election Enforcement Commission, state library, et cetera. I did learn that this is getting to my wish list. The state had looked into creating a statewide dog licensing system. We license over 2,500 dogs here in Darien, and they decided that given the expense that the state would incur in doing so, that topic is virtually dead on arrival. So I'm going to look into some in-house solutions to facilitate that process. And also I was asked by the president of the CTCA to serve on our legislative committee, which I am very thrilled to do because that is a topic near and dear to my heart, and so sort of to be on the front end of any legislation affecting the world of town clerks and then how it might affect Darien. So I was honored for that. And so I am in touch with Tracy Mara on a regular basis with any legislation that might be affecting Darien. In addition to my report, Bobby talked about the OpenGov. Again, the liquor licenses. I had started conversations with OpenGov, found out that there was a spot still remaining for the fire marshal's office, but he graciously let me in for the liquor licenses. So facilitating our vendors here in town who are selling liquor, they may be able to utilize OpenGov. So we're still working out some kinks, but it's a step in the right direction. As far as the RTM, again, they will have the budget on May 13th, which you all should know. And we still have one opening left in District 3. They did interview a candidate and felt that candidate was not right. So the opening remains for District 3. And if there's any questions on my report.
Yeah, just go to 6B where you've got the section on going forward.
Yes.
And kind of improving communications with other town departments. Can you just expand on that a little bit? I'm a big fan of better communication.
Sure. Well, this was, I highlighted this one scenario. This had to do with which John is very involved with, was the cannabis it's implementing or new business on our border. Municipalities, so this on this topic, municipalities file this with the town clerk whenever there's a planning or zoning activity, land board activity, and Jeremy could speak more to it, within 500 feet of our border. I get these filings on a regular basis, and I file them away. Well, lo and behold, I didn't realize that those municipalities don't tell anybody else in Darien about this, as I discussed with Jeremy. So I was like, wow, that's really surprising that this information isn't getting anywhere else within our town hall border. So going forward, I've spoken to Jeremy. Whenever I get this filing, it's going to be scanned and sent right to Jeremy, right to the director of, Commissioner of Planning and Zoning, Steve Mulvaney. I've already spoken to Steve. And then if something else pops up high, I'll send to Kate and John. So just making sure we're all on the same page. Historically, since I've been in the office, I have enabled Tony's office to access our software regarding land filings. Previously, their staff would always come into our office and to use our computers. I'm like, why are you guys always coming in here? It's like, I have more licenses, or I looked into, can I get more licenses for his people? Yes, no charge. So it's like a no-brainer. So I'm constantly looking for these opportunities. How can we all work better without any charges? So that's kind of where I'm always have an eye toward, I don't want to say efficiency, but better communication amongst all of us.
Right. My goal would be to get periodic complaints from all of you. There's just too much communication going on. I just have too much information from my other department head colleagues. So when that time comes, we'll have a conversation. It is not here yet. So.
Yeah, so that's a kind of just a heightened awareness to how can I, if I see things like that. So those are two examples that just jumped off right now. But
okay, terrific. Questions for Kristen?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Ms. Hendrickson, Town Treasurer.
Feel like a 57 Chevy, with replacement parts. I've got to get up and get down, so please excuse me. Good news, we're making a lot of money. We're at 3.4 million at the end of March. I'm pretty confident that we will make 4 million by the end of the fiscal year. Just with the T-bills alone that are coming due by the end of May, that will add $471,000 to the 3.4. So I'm pretty confident that we can get there. John told me that was the number he wanted, so I'm getting there. You asked about larger things, and the first one is project that was T-bills, short-term versus long-term. There wasn't any financial benefit to doing that, but I did uncover something rather interesting and something for you all to think about. Some of the larger cities, I've been told by my trader manager, do 3-year T-notes to link with payments that are coming due in 3 years. It's almost like a forward contract. I don't control, when those payments are coming due, but it's something for us to think about. It's usually done in larger cities, but I think it might be an interesting use for longer-term money, just to think about. On the other issue we have, it's continuing, it started in September, is on the arbitraging our bonds. I have been unable to find even one municipality who is doing this. And I recognize that we have people in town who are gung-ho to do this, but it does give me pause when there is no one out there. I thought maybe I wasn't going to the right people, so I talked to my Chase banker this week, and they have a very large municipal group where they are dealing with everybody. And I said, do you have a lot of people arbitraging your bonds, their bonds? Because again, for those of you who aren't, I think you're all familiar with it, it's an inversion in the market. So we can do it. Should we do it? And his answer was, we have no one who will do this because the risks are too high. So one of my suggestions might be to get people from the outside, not in our Darien bubble, to come in and talk to us about what they're seeing in other towns. And again, I understand it's our town's decision, but I think looking in the larger world, if nobody that I found and that this guy's found, and he has a large base of towns in New York and Connecticut that he's working with, and he has no one who is doing it, we need to talk about that and why. So my suggestion might be that he come in and talk to you. I'm sure he'd do it. He's at the New York GFOA meeting today. So, again, it might be better to get some outside input versus just what we're hearing here in town from people here in town. One little housekeeping detail, and it's a little bit awkward, but I normally give you a portfolio report every month. I do one for myself, which has security issues and it has account numbers, and so I do a redacted version. I've had some people who have been misusing this. I don't want to get into any particulars, but you all can see whatever numbers I have anytime. The portfolio is your portfolio, but I don't want to distribute it to give people, they're using it, they're weaponizing it to a certain degree. And again, I'd rather not get into the specifics of it. But I sat down with John last week and went through every investment has a reason for being there, and they mesh. And when one goes up, the other goes down. It's just like your own portfolio. It's how you manage them. So John and I had a brief meeting, but I think you understood better why we have what we have. I've had some, again, my wish list is a little less interference by individuals. This is a town where a lot of people work in finance and they're really smart and they know what they know. And but I had and again, it's on, thank you, Jim Cameron, because it's on your Vimeo, where I had someone ask me in a budget meeting, well, you have this investment and this investment, and you could get 100 basis points more if you put it in T-bills. And I said, I've got $59 million in T-bills. You want more? That's more than half the portfolio. That's called concentration of risk. Even with U.S. government risk, I just, whenever you're in a market, I think that's enough. And again, a lot of it is based on every investment I do has to be approved by Jen because it's needed for her cash flow. So I need to do what meshes with her cash flow. So I thought that was kind of funny myself, but that 59 million wasn't enough. And we were going to look at a $9 million and a $250,000 investment for doing this. But what people need to understand, and again, the best way to think of this is from your own point of view, from a personal point of view. When certain rates, for example, 2.5 years ago, STIP was at 0, Chase was at 4 basis points. That's a big place where we're putting a lot of money. But my little banks, I was getting 55 basis points. So it's all a matter of who needs what funding when, and if you balance a portfolio, and if you mesh the large with the small, you always have somebody, depending on their funding need, who will give you money when others can't. And that's really how the portfolio is run. So, any questions?
I have a question, Joan. So on the portfolio, so if a board...
Could you speak up a little bit? I'm having trouble
On
hearing.
the portfolio, if a Board of Selectmen member calls you, will you email them the portfolio?
No. What we'll do is we'll set up an appointment because what's happening is I'd rather not go into it too much here because it's a personnel matter. There are some people who are abusing the privilege. And
Okay,
again,
I'm just really concerned about R5. So if we want to see the portfolio, we have to physically come to your office?
no, you can call me. Again, I will talk it over with you and quite frankly with John, but I'm concerned with, I've had some people misusing the information.
Okay.
And that's my concern. So logistics, let's figure it out.
Okay.
But you don't have a concern with anyone on this board?
This board, I have no concerns with, and you are all welcome to look at it. That was the whole point. Previous treasurers have never given anything. The only person who can attest to that is Kate.
How long have you been our treasurer?
Okay, I was just counting this up the other night. I have been elected 9 times,
Wow.
so that's 18 years, including a primary, that's 10 times. And I served 6 terms on the RTM, so that's 30 years serving the town of Darien. So, and Kate, again, can I quote you, because this is a font of all knowledge here.
That's scary.
Kate's answer when somebody complains is, she said, well, just tell them to run for treasurer.
Oh, I did.
Yes, that is her answer, and it is a very good answer. So, as I said, I am using you as the font of all knowledge here. But again, logistics, let's figure it out. I did sit down with John last week and go through and, but I'm happy to sit down. There's no problem with this board whatsoever.
Okay. I'm disappointed that there is conflict and disagreement over all this. It does not speak well to the town that you've
I
had to
agree.
make the decisions that you've done about withholding information, and I'm going to intervene quite heavily to straighten that out.
That would be
As I think
wonderful.
everybody here knows, in terms of civility, decorum, professional colleagues getting along, that's at the top of my list. And when I see that that's not happening, I will be spending a lot of time to straighten that out. So this is the last time we're going to have this problem.
Okay.
So,
And
any other questions for Joan? We
Yeah.
need to move on.
Any other department heads who want to see it, this is public information, I mean, it's information that can be seen.
We're not having all that, so
Okay.
we're going to figure out another plan.
Okay.
Other questions for Joan? We need to
No.
move on. Okay, thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, Mr. Cameron. before you even start, I'm disappointed that I did not see my Singapore viewership statistics. Everyone's been waiting with bated breath, but fortunately, you have them off the top of your head, so.
Viewership in Singapore, I don't know what happened to it, but
They moved.
what really matters is local viewership.
We have entirely bored them during our budget season. Yes.
Anybody can watch on the internet, but the interest in Kuala Lumpur seems to have dropped off the face of the earth, which is fine. Strong viewership continues. It's budget season. This is when we are the busiest, and when people suddenly realize something's going on in town hall and they want to, participate. As you know, the Board of Finance hearings on the budget were flowing people out into the hallway as well too. But people were watching it live, and the viewership on the replay on the Vimeo and the website has been strong. Kudos to our first selectman, who again holds #1 position for his viewership for the Great Island Access video. I think the last time I checked, it was over 450 views. Boards of Selectmen, Boards of Finance, P&Z, they're also very strong. We did, as somebody mentioned earlier, we did videotape an interesting session on tax abatement for seniors that was held at the Senior Center. Tony Hamicki, our tax assessor, Kathy Larkins, the tax collector, in a moderated conversation with Joe Pankowski from the Commission on Aging, held at the Senior Center. I'm not sure how many people showed up in person, but it has got a good viewership on TV 79. I'll get to my wish list, which is actually quite short. I want to thank the town clerk's office for engaging in FOI compliance. If we want people to be participating in town government, they need to know what the agendas are going to be for the meetings that are coming up. And the town clerk's office has really helped me in getting, especially some RTM committees and some of the other boards and commissions, to post their agendas within 24 hours of a meeting. And so that's working better. Now people know exactly what's coming up. We are getting our first intern from Darien High School, a young lady who is interested apparently less in video than in town government. She wants to be a poli-sci major, and somebody suggested, well, why don't you work at TV 79? And I said, this is the perfect place to get a sense of how town government functions. So during her official
So you're going to convince her to go into engineering?
No. But during her official internship, I may actually set her up to talk to some boards and departments in town hall, because she needs to get a better sense of how that all works.
Send her by my office. I'd be happy to talk to her.
You will. You're at the top of the list, sir. I promise you. The Darien Community Fund is holding its annual volunteer recognition soiree. It's going to be on the 30th of April at the DCA, and I am pleased to report that David Deaver, who is the founder of TV 79, is going to be recognized as Outstanding Senior Volunteer. And I hope you all can attend, because that's a wonderful way. That's on the 30th of April at 5:30 p.m., different time this year. There's going to be a little reception afterwards as well, too.
Yeah, where will that be?
At the Darien Community Association. Industry trends. Viewership is strong, but it's evolving. I think there are far more people who are cutting the cord. They are not subscribing to Altice, Cablevision, Optimum, so they're not watching us on their cable TV systems, which is why we're available on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can watch TV 79 live on everything except your microwave, and I'm working on that. That migration means that we have to, either allow people to watch us live or watch us on replay. And I think that our website is where most of the viewership is coming. If it's a really important meeting, I think people are watching live. Given the timing of this meeting on a weekday morning, people may not be watching live, but they'll certainly tune in and watch it on demand on the website a little bit later. And I have metrics on that, which I decided to just go down to one page in a report this time, but the numbers still remain quite strong. That really increases the importance, if you're going to watch us after the fact, of time-stamped agendas. And I'm working on a solution to that ongoing problem. with First Selectman and with Kate that I think is going to solve that particular problem. Because it's like drinking from a fire hose. You know, if you know that somebody said something about Hanson Road Bridge at this meeting, and you're going to tune in, well, we're already 2 hours into this meeting. How am I going to find the Hanson Road stuff that's in there? You look at the time-stamped agendas, it'll take you directly to that part of the meeting. So I think that's going to be a very important solution as well, too. The other problem with evolving with cable cutters is that our funding comes from cable subscribers. And if cable subscribers diminish in number, that could potentially mean less funding for TV 79 that we get through the Area 9 Cable Council. So
What percentage of your funding comes from that?
I would say probably 90% of our capital equipment and more than 2/3 of our, no, I'd say maybe 1/3 of our camera operator funding. The balance comes from the budget for the town as well, too.
Okay.
But I'm watching that. The Cable Council is aware of that. I believe there's a bill that's working its way through the laborious legislative process, which might change that, which would put a surcharge on internet access, not just cable subscription, to help fund the public, educational, and government access stations that exist in Connecticut as well, too. Happy to answer any questions.
This is terrific. Questions for Jim?
No, thank you.
Jim, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you. And happy Earth Day.
Absolutely. Thanks to all the department heads, terrific meeting, and we will ponder the format and more concise reports to make sure this is working, but thank you for the participating in the experiment. We get a motion to adjourn this meeting, or?
No.
No? Okay,
No.
thank you. Dismissed.
But you didn't call the next one.
I'm going to skip my first selectman's report. Do you have anything for town administrator?
Nothing that's urgent.
All right, so I'm going to skip. Do we have any board liaison?
I mean, the Blight Review met since we last met, so
Okay.
that'll be very fast.
Yeah.
What
You know-
was it through this?
If you do the math on these meetings, we've got like 14, 15 departments. And even if they were all 5 minutes each, you're talking about an hour and a half. You
Well,
know?
could we do half
So-
the departments each quarter? Would that
I
make sense
think
for a more robust
the
discussion?
charter requires that they all report. You could
They could
do
still
exactly
report,
that.
but
You
we
know, they
could
have to provide,
review.
right. They have to provide the written report. You could decide that, this quarter we're only doing,
Yeah.
A through M, and the next, so.
Maybe something like that?
Yeah.
Because one thing Sarah brought up before, and I'm kind of interested in your reaction now, having heard this, was that the information you kind of get out of the report, since you're not here every day, was very helpful to you.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering
Like
kind of.
particularly Ed stuff.
Ed,
Yeah.
I don't think we can ever get away from a longer report on
Darren's
him.
not going to stop.
Well, and I'm totally cool with that. How did you feel just listening to all this? Was it?
No, it is helpful. I do think it's important for us to hear what's going on and to have those communications and for them to know that we are here for them.
Totally agree.
The one way you're going to reduce the time is not reducing the physical report, but when they come here, don't tell us anything that was in your report.
Right.
If you all commit to reading the reports, the
Well,
only
but
thing you
that-
want to hear from them here is what's changed
but-
since they
Yeah,
gave
but
the report.
further to that point, though, part of the reason I was trying to get them to focus the report on sort of top five, like what are you thinking about? So when they would get up, they would actually say, this is what I'm thinking about, what's interesting, and what I want to engage you all on, right, that's relevant, as opposed to, a statistical compilation of stuff. So this helped me a lot. We'll think more
You know how
about
you
it.
also save like 5 minutes automatically? You tell the people like, when you hear the other person go and you're next, get up, don't wait to be called.
Yeah, so I will.
I've
do
been at
that.
award ceremonies that are like, okay, next.
Excellent point.
There's no
Okay.
music.
Why not, TV 79, we're back up for the Board of Selectmen meeting, so I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, April 22nd. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I don't have much for the first selectman's report, so I'm going to pass on that today so we can move things along. Kate, town administrator?
I'll pass too.
Okay. Board liaison, Mike?
Quickly, we met on April 10th. We had 3 of 5 members there. I will say again, we are missing a representative, or we need a representative to be filled from Human Services to be back at full strength. We reviewed our properties. There are 13, there may be 2 that may come off the list. What we do is we have people come in. We've asked a couple of property owners to come in and report to us at our June meeting with the intent of either there might be one that will get let off the list, or one that will convert from a warning status to actually fines beginning to accumulate. And that's that.
Okay. Thank you. Marcy, anything from you?
Just a quick reminder, Mental Health Task Force met back at the end of March. Reminder that on May 15th and 16th, Ally just went over it, but that's when they're having the Mental Health Task Force training. And then big one this weekend, April 28th, is the AFSP Walk at the Darien High School. That registration starts at 11, walk starts at 11:45. It was super successful. We were the first high school in the state of Connecticut to ever have the suicide prevention walk. It's really a great event, really motivational and emotional for a lot of the students as they've experienced suicide in the past couple of years, and really would ask everybody to come out and support that.
That's terrific.
Hope there's
What
good
time
weather
is
for
that?
you. It's 11 o'clock is registration, 11:45 the walk starts. You can register online at American Foundation for the Prevention of Suicide, do donations on there, or you can register in person as well.
If you could send me a link to that, I've got
Sure.
to do Little League opening at 11,
Same day,
but I
okay.
will come right after that.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Monica?
On Great Island, a couple of things. 23A, I think you're all aware that the bids were due on April 4th, and we received no bids. So Ed, Director of Public Works, has reached out to all of the vendors to see what's going on, and feels that it's a little bit of a design issue and a little bit of timing. So the plan there is to rebid this probably in May and look to get the work done by the end of the year for 23A. On the RFPs for the master planner for the plan for the island, on April 2nd, and I forgot what other day, all 6 firms toured the site. I took them out there. They spent about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes there. We had 4 bids come in successfully that were on time and had the correct information.
You had 5 bids.
Well, we have 4 that we are considering.
Oh, yes.
So the committee right now, we received the bids last Thursday. We're in the process of reviewing the 4 bids. Interviews with those firms will be on May 1st and May 2nd from 6 to 9. And then the committee will be meeting again on May 9th to discuss, and then we'll be making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen at our meeting on May 15th. Our goal is to get a consultant on board by July 1st. And so because we are waiting on the consultant, and because the road situation hasn't changed, we voted to keep the rules and regulations as they are, with the understanding that one of the first things the consultant will be doing outreach to the community and taking a look at that also. This summer, people will, you'll need a beach pass to park at Pear Tree, if that's where you want to park, to walk over to the island. And we're asking people to be really, really careful on Pear Tree Point Beach Road specifically, and to walk single file. We're going to be boosting the signage a little bit on that road and at the beach as well.
Terrific. Okay, Sarah?
Very brief update. The HHRBC committee met last week, and it was a very brief meeting. Our next one will be mid-May. The main update is that the trailers will soon be delivered to the schools. The work did begin in brief last week while the kids were out of school. Some people were on site just reviewing and making sure everything is ready, and then they'll start as soon as school ends.
Okay, terrific. Kate, any public comments?
No, I have not received any.
Okay. New business. Discuss and take action on a request for a change in health department fees. Mr. Canal.
Good morning again. Thank you. What we would like to do is to simplify and streamline our fee schedule for plan reviews specifically. Currently, for the new facilities that are proposed in town, in order to know what a person pays for a plan review fee, they have to submit it to us first, and we have to look at it to assess the type of operation they're going to be, because our fee schedule now is set up that it's coordinated with food service classifications. So right away, it causes a delay in our ability to actually do plan reviews, and it's confusing to the applicants. So what we're proposing to do is just have a flat fee for new facilities that are full-service restaurants, cooking and serving food. A separate fee that's a little less because it's not as involved in terms of our plan reviews and pre-opening inspections. And that is also a standard fee. The full-service fee we're proposing is $800. That would include not just the plan reviews, and generally there are multiple plans, but equipment reviews and multiple inspections of facilities before they open. And this is getting closer to what it really costs us to provide that service. A less fee for the smaller facilities that don't cook food, ice cream shops, coffee shops, things of that nature. And for renovations of existing facilities, a separate fee also. But that is a fee that the applicant will know when they look online to fill out an application. It's very simple. They'll know right away what the fee is going to be.
Kate, comment?
No, I think it's a good thing.
And the other fee would be to increase the fee for cosmetology salons, because they're getting more and more complicated, taking more and more of our time. Right now, we're only charging $100 to review plans for those facilities. Again, that includes plan reviews, usually a revision or two, and then pre-opening inspections.
So David, the $275 on the low end, is that the fee that's being bumped to 400, or I'm trying to...
It's being bumped to 800.
So
It could be, yes.
Okay.
So it would be like, that would be a coffee shop, or, something that, it's food that's served, it's got minimal preparation.
Okay, so the 275 isn't going to 800, it's going to 400?
That's correct.
Most likely, okay. And then, I know you have, I think you have 6 or 7 coming online, you think? When would this go into effect, do you think?
As soon as we get approval.
So anything from, if we approve it today, anything from tomorrow on?
If they come in and apply tomorrow, it would be applicable tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, that would be my hope.
And anything in the works right now, you would
Is-
keep it as it
done.
was?
No changes for existing applicants
New
currently under
applications.
review.
Under review, okay.
But brand-new applications, yes.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
right. I'm okay with this. As a general matter, alignment with fees, aligning fees with the cost to actually do the inspections or plan reviews or all of that is something that we ought to take a look at actually periodically, and not just in this area, but other stuff that we do. So kudos to you to bring this up, to get this up to speed. And updated questions for David about this?
I just
Sarah?
had 2. When was the last time we raised the fees? Do we know?
Pardon me?
When was the last time we raised the fees?
We had to readjust them last year because we put the FDA food code into effect.
Right.
So there were several facilities that did have an increase.
Okay.
Because we had to reclassify them.
Okay.
So we'll see at the end of this year what type of income increase is reflected in that.
Okay.
So we may want to reassess that again going forward, because this is the first time that we've actually adjusted fees with the FDA code, changing classifications of facilities, because the classification of facilities is what we use as a basis for the annual fee.
Right.
My next question is, do we fall in line with other towns with the fees, now the new fee schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
So David, did we adjust the annual fee?
Last year.
We did, for all categories?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now your department, you're pretty set with
Yeah,
updating
you know, and we
fees.
could examine that going forward to see if it's relevant. You know, I think it is. I think we're towards the high end statewide in our fees
Right.
still, you know, but I think they really do reflect the amount of effort that's involved.
Right, so this was based on manpower, that's how you
Yes.
arrived at these numbers?
And also to make it easier for the applicant, you know, just a single fee, because as I said, right now, it's like, well, what's my classification?
Right.
In order to pay the fee, we have to review the plans first, to find that out.
I'm okay with this. Any other questions for David? Okay, motion to approve the modified fee schedule as proposed. Ike moves, Marcy second, all in favor? Okay, thank you, David.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks again, David.
Yeah, appreciate it, thank you. Item 2, discuss and take action on a resolution authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds in an amount not to exceed $144,940,000. Kate?
So we do this every year. It allows us, it'll be next step, I actually think the Board of Finance has already approved it, but then it would be approved by the RTM. What it does is basically rescinds any prior authorizations, but sets up new ones so that if a refunding opportunity presents itself, we're all ready to go. We can do it as quickly as we can get to market with an OS and all that.
Yeah, we do this every year, and it's important to have this in place so we can take advantage of that, particularly in a fast-changing rate environment, so I'm okay with that.
So,
Questions about it?
So Kate, what's the maturity on this?
The maturity on what?
On
This is not a new
It's
bond.
not at all?
This is just
Okay.
saying that.
Just the paperwork, got
Right.
it. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah,
So it may not happen.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know?
this just speeds up the process for a refunding if it comes up, rather than have to go through a long process, so.
Like as
I'm good.
Jack likes to tell every year, we once lost an opportunity. Between the time the Board of Selectmen approved the resolution and the RTM approved it, the market had changed and the refunding was no longer economically feasible, so.
Gotcha.
Could I get a motion to approve a resolution appropriating $144,940,000 to refund certain of the town's outstanding bonds and authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds or amounts available in unassigned fund balance to finance such appropriation? Mike moves, Monica seconds, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Discuss and take action on a request for a special appropriation of $1,671,000 to the Reserve for Capital and Non-Recurring Expenditures. Kate?
Yeah, I'm missing Jen today. This
Put your
is-
old hat on, you can do it.
Yeah, my old hat on. This is a resolution that the Board of Finance passed as part of the budget process to fund certain of the fiscal '25 capital reserve fund for capital non-recurring from existing fund balance. It's not an uncommon thing for them to do.
Yeah, so further to this, their total estimate of the draw from fund balance as part of the process for wrapping up the fiscal '25 budget is they're going to draw $3.5 million out of that, which still keeps the fund balance percentage at a level that our ratings agencies want to see. The reason that they're only pulling the $1,671,000 out now is because there's some school security measures that once we get through some discussions that will also come out of fund balance. So right now it's just the $1,671,000, and that once we sort through the school security measures, we'll add that. And I guess I'm a little unclear, why isn't the school transportation coming out of that as well? Why have we waited on that? I thought they approved that.
I believe that had already happened. That was already been approved, both by this board and.
Oh, I'm
by
sorry. So we already did the 755. This is
Yes.
just the next
We
tranche of
actually,
that. I'm sorry, you're right.
That was something I was supposed to put in my town administrator's report. This board approved 850.
All right, that's.
And the
all right.
Board of Finance, for the buses, and the Board of Finance reduced that amount after the schools changed
Okay,
the
that's-
makeup of the vehicles.
Yeah, that's where I was confused. Okay. Great. So what we need is a motion to approve this contribution from fund balance in the amount of $1,671,000. Sarah moves, Monica seconds, all in favor? Okay. Discuss and take action on a request for a special appropriation from the Great Island Advisory Committee for the preparation of a master plan. Kate
And
Monica.
we are withdrawing that. I had that on my calendar to go this month, and the committee had it on their calendar to go in May, which they will.
Okay.
Yep.
Transfer. Discuss and take action on a request for a transfer of $20,000 to P&Z Consulting.
Let me just get down. See, right, this has to do with the GIS and zoning consulting, that they're doing more work outside with engineering reviews. When people are making changes to their property, we have the ability to use an outside engineer to review it. And so they've had to do that more than anticipated this year.
Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Motion to approve a request to transfer $20,000 to P&Z Consulting. Sarah moves. Mike second. All in favor? Okay. Minutes. So we have two sets of minutes. One's from April 8th and a special meeting from March 19th. I have read through these and didn't see anything. Anything from anybody else? The special meeting's just executive session, so it's short. Any questions on the minutes?
No.
Okay, motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented. Sarah moves. Monica seconds. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Agenda review. We are going to discuss the flag policy at the next evening meeting, which is May 6th, is that right?
Yes.
May 6th, so that will be on the agenda for that discussion. Anyone who would like to come and speak out on that, why, we are certainly inviting you to do that. Anything else for agenda review?
No.
No?
Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing else. Kate, anything? Anybody
No.
else? Okay. A quick and efficient meeting. Motion to adjourn. Sarah moves. Mike second. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.